Chris Mannix, SI.com. We were just talking about the piece. Dame Lillard did a Q&A with Dame on to talk about the piece, the East standings, his thoughts on the West. And, yes, we must ask about our beloved Trailblazers and his thoughts on that. And Joe has a boxing question, so we have a lot to get to here with Chris Mannix, and he joins us now. Chris, good morning. Thanks for hopping on with us. We went through the piece. When you read it, some of the answers to some of the questions, he just comes off sad. What was the tone or the feel for some of the answers that he gave on life in Milwaukee for Dame?
No, I don't think he was sad, and he was not bringing the stuff up unilaterally. This was part of a lengthy piece, and there's even more stuff that's coming out in the magazine in a couple of weeks. This is really just the outtakes from and what was left after that interview. But it was just about kind of the start of the season and how it's been both for him personally and the team itself. And I never got the sense in our conversations that he was sad. It was just a pretty big adjustment. I mean, when you think about it, this really is the first time that Dame has kind of been out on his own, basically by himself in situations. I mean, when he went to Weber State, that was really only like a 90-minute flight to Oakland. He could have people come and go as he wished. He goes to Portland, and two of his best friends were in school at Lewis and Clark. So he already had kind of a built-in foundation there, a foundation that was built and grew even more exponentially over the years. And you guys covered Dame for a long time. He's not, the social butterfly out there. He's a guy that likes to spend time around family and close friends. And the reality of this situation is that being in Milwaukee, he doesn't have that at the moment. So it's not that he's sad. It's just a different reality for him that he's had to face, and that's been part of the trials and tribulations of the season.
So, I mean, with you saying that, I mean, you might be, disagreeing with this point too, but I mean, like the vibes of the interview and you talking to him, I mean, did you feel like there was any sense of or feeling of regret or like buyer's remorse about oh man, I had it pretty good back in Portland, and while the basketball situation wasn't ideal, but again, family, friends, the situation, the comfortability of that, I mean, that has to have value as well. I mean, did you get any sort of vibe of that where it was like he is kind of second guessing this move in his career, or that it's like, no, he's owning up to it?
Yeah, no, I don't think he was second guessing at all. I think he was comfortable in his decision because he believes it was the best basketball decision to make. Now, obviously, we all know he wanted to go to Miami originally, and that was because he thought that was going to put him in a position to win. The Heat, of course, coming off that finals run. But in Milwaukee, he gets the exact same thing, maybe a better thing when it comes to pure talent. And because of that, I didn't get any sense that he had any buyer's remorse, that he would do anything differently. He made a decision. As you said, he's a grown man. He made a decision. And look, every decision doesn't, end, the way every James Harden decision ends, where you get exactly what you want and exactly the situation you want to be in. He's had to deal with some stuff, but no, I don't think he has for 1 minute regretted the choices that he made.
Chris, the East is pretty loaded. Boston's having a fantastic season. I'm curious because you highlight it and you mentioned there's going to be more in the magazine, and this is just kind of some of the leftovers that you put out at SI.com and on your Twitter account. When you look at the East and you look at where Milwaukee is, and Dame says in this, I thought we'd be where Boston is right now. How much blame? I know the players get all the attention. They get the accolades. They get the blame. We debate, who's better than who. How much of the responsibility of Milwaukee's start, and they're picking it up a little bit here, is on the franchise, giving them an unproven coach who didn't seem ready for the moment, an assistant randomly quitting, going to the guy that was consulting the team and just giving him the job, and then him questioning that publicly? How much is to blame on the franchise and not so much Giannis and Dame for where they're kind of at?
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that the blame pie has a lot of hands in it, right? To be clear, when Dame said, I thought we'd be like Boston is right now, he was responding to a question that I put to him about how he felt after the preseason debut.
Yeah.
And I was in L.A. for that when they looked great, beating the Lakers. Dame and Giannis had a combined 30 in limited minutes. So, in that moment, he felt like, all right, we're going to hit the ground running, which you can't blame him. They looked really good. It's obviously taken a lot of twists and turns since then, which has led us to this point. I do think a couple things were problematic. One, as we talked about in the story, Terry Stotts' exit hurt, right? Like, Terry Stotts was the bridge that united Damian Lillard and the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, the offense that they were running while Terry Stotts was the elite assistant was a carbon copy for what they ran in Portland. So Dame was able to come in and not only be familiar with the offense, but he's effectively teaching other guys the offense, which is incredible since he's the new guy on a team with a lot of guys that have been around. Terry Stotts goes out, and as Dame told me, like, pretty much everything Terry was doing kind of went out with him, and he had to go back to sort of learning on the fly and trying to process everything that Adrian Griffin and the Bucks were trying to do. So that's part of it. And look, I don't begrudge Milwaukee hiring Griff. I mean, he's an accomplished guy. Somebody should have hired him. But there were problems with his coaching philosophies. I think he tried to do too much on the defensive side. I don't think he took enough advantage of Giannis in the pick and roll. I mean, I have one of the stats I have in the magazine. I don't have it in front of me right now, but the pick and roll that Dame and Giannis ran was one of the most effective pick and rolls in terms of offensive efficiency in the first half of the season. It was like top 3 in terms of offensive efficiency. In terms of volume, it was like 25th. Like, so if you're not taking advantage of one of the most impressive pick and roll combinations you're going to find in the NBA, that's a problem. If you're, having 6 or 7 different types of defense with a team that has been a really strong fundamental defense over the last 3 or 4 years, that's a problem. So I do think that coaching, prior to Doc Rivers coming in, was part of the problem that put the Bucks in a position where they were good, but no one, including the decision makers in Milwaukee, thought they were championship level good.
To bring it back home in Portland here, it feels like how the fans feel in Portland with their coaching is very much like the weather. One day it's sunny, one day it's raining, one day it's windy. You never know what you're going to get. And this is now year 3 of Chauncey Billups' tenure here, and it's a very different situation than when he first walked in. Again, I like to get a kind of pulse of like around the league and around the country because we're kind of stuck in our own little bubble here in Portland. Do you feel like this is Chauncey's like chance here this season to make something happen where he can develop this team and still be the coach throughout the rest of this contract? Or is it kind of looking like this wasn't the situation he was built for, and that whether it's this year or even halfway through next season, that it's probably not the best fit for this team at this moment in time?
No, look, I think there does need to be a conversation between Chauncey Billups and Joe Cronin after this season about, the plan here, because it's going to be a long time before this team is good. Let's be real about it. I mean, there is talent here, and I think Scoot Henderson, I like what I've seen from him in spurts in February. I've been high on him since the draft. I think he's going to get it right. I think you're going to get a franchise point guard in Scoot Henderson. Shaden Sharp is good. Simons is good. But they're, multiple years of development and 2 or 3 pieces away from being a real contender. And the dust really hasn't even settled from the Dame trade because you still don't know what's going to happen with Malcolm Brogdon. Does Robert Williams have trade value this summer coming off knee surgery? There's just a lot of things that need to happen as part of this rebuild. And I think there has to be a conversation between Joe Cronin and Chauncey Billups of whether Chauncey wants to be part of it, whether he wants to, stick it out for 3-4 more years and develop this team. If he does, great. Look, Chauncey is an excellent basketball mind. Like he's really sharp, and I've been around him a little bit over the last couple of years. His enthusiasm has been strong. Like he has wanted to do this job and get the most out of these guys. But look, he wasn't hired by Joe Cronin. He was hired for a specific job. Try to make this team into a contender with Damian Lillard as a part of it. I think there has to be a conversation between management and Chauncey Billups about what he wants and if he's willing to go the distance. And if he's not, there's no shame in that. But Portland needs a coach that is willing to coach and can coach for the next 3 or 4 years. Look, they need, frankly, I'm not that I'm saying he should be the guy, but what Scott Brooks did in Oklahoma City was the kind of coach they needed, right? Like Scott Brooks came in, took over for PJ Carlesimo, and guided that Thunder team from a mess into an NBA Finals team. They need, that person who's all the way in on the job. If it's Chauncey, great. If he wants to keep the job, absolutely. But if it's not, they should probably, come to a decision here and try to find somebody else.
Chris, good stuff, man. Thanks for hopping on with us. Really enjoyed the Dame piece. We'll look forward to the magazine edition with the more details in it. Always enjoy your time.
It's got a lot. I'll tell you this, guys.
Yeah,
Got a lot of. It's got. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's got a lot of Portland stuff in there. It's
Really?
got a lot of Portland stuff in there, so you'll like it.
Oh, that's a dirty little tease. We're going to have to go buy it now. Chris Mannix on Twitter, at SI Chris Mannix. Chris, we always appreciate the time. Keep up the good work, man, and let's catch up soon.
You got it, guys.
All right, there we go. Good stuff. Chris Mannix, SI.com. We didn't get to your boxing question.
Oh, I want to know what he is on his schedule as far as like this is the fight that basically everyone should tune into because there's a few that are coming up in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's because Francis Ngannou's boxing in like a couple weeks.
Damn near beat Fury.
Yeah.
Damn near beat Fury.